Hey y'all, welcome to my channel, Sovereign Bloom, here where I share daily life and just being a stay-at-home mom and living more mindfully, spending money and what we eat and fuel our bodies with. Hey y'all, so in this video I'm going to be making snacks and lunches that we eat throughout our day for lunch or just for snacking. With a toddler who is a meat eater, there will be a meat option, and there's also going to be some like healthy-ish treat-based snacks. And I'm inspired to make this video because a creator on here asked to collaborate. Her channel is Down to Earth Jill, and she is someone that got me actually on this path of being more frugal or mindful and making things at home because it's actually easy. And we're collaborating in this video to share some at-home foods, snacks, and lunches that we lean on as mothers and families and nourishing our families. So stay tuned. Let me know in the comments if you like to make anything at home and what is it. I've been making a lot of bread-based products like pitas, bagels, and bread, and I'm enjoying this rather than getting it at the store because there is such a long list of ingredients in store-bought bread products to preserve it and to also keep it shelf stable. So making it at home may not last as long, but it makes me feel better eating it. So yeah, I've been leaning on a lot of bread products, like making bread at home, making bagels, pitas, instead of buying them on the road because they're a lot less they are less expensive and they have less ingredients in them. So I've been enjoying that. But in this video I'm going to make a nice avocado pudding. I'm going to make some meatballs for my son because he is a meat eater and he is on the slimmer side, so I do want to try to make sure he is getting in all of those essential fats, proteins, carbs, all of that. And then the other thing we'll be making in this video is some bagels and some sweet potato pudding. One thing we love in this house is sorrel, and we love it homemade. So we're making a nice big pot of that. We have the water boiled up and we're gonna put in our ingredients. So you know what, you can add in whatever you like, but we like to add in some cinnamon, some pimento, also known as allspice, and some cloves, which are in the bottom of this. And orange peels. These are dried from a few, I think last season, but washed and peeled. And then some ginger, some old ginger we need to use up. We got our fresh ginger here. And I'm going to use 2 bags of this dried sorrel.
So we add in 1 nutmeg as well, and my husband likes his drinks, but oftentimes they're full of preservatives and food colorings, and we don't like that. I definitely don't like food coloring. So if I can make it at home, why not? And then we can all enjoy it.
Okay, so we have the sorrel steeping, and it's going to steep probably overnight. Overnight is best. And I'll turn it off now. Big pot. And now let's get on to our bagels. All the things y'all will need to make some bagels. Get as many seasonings as you want. I just have salt. This is for the topping, sesame seed bagels.
Okay, so starting with the bagels, you're going to do 1½ a cup of warm water, and then you're going to add in your yeast, which is 1½ tablespoons of dry active yeast. And I always add in some brown sugar, so 1 tablespoon of brown sugar to help activate the yeast. And then after you let that sit for maybe like 10 minutes, then you can add in your flour. In this recipe calls for 4 cups of flour, 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, and 1 teaspoon of salt. Mix that up with your whatever utensils you're using, and then I am using So I am using a kitchen mixer to bring this together. You don't need to. You can use your hands, but it will take longer. And even still, the mixer isn't going to fully mix the dough together. I will have to knead it after to bring the texture together. It will look a little dry, but after kneading it, it does come together nice, fluffy, and soft. And then you can either set the dough aside and give it a minute to rise and relax. And after that, you're going to separate it into 8 equal parts. I was eyeballing this to the best that I could. And you're going to like fold it like underneath, as you can see what I'm doing there. And then I did this kind of practice that I do for making dumpling. So this is actually something that I found helpful while making the bagels, is just tucking it, and then you just pinch the bottom, and then that is the ball, and you can just put it aside and let that rest for 10 to 15 minutes. When your bagels are sitting, you're going to then poke a hole in the middle and let them sit for another 30 minutes. You're going to get a pot of water boiled. Add in some brown sugar and then let your bagels boil on one side for 1 minute, and then you're going to flip over and do another minute on the other side. Get your egg ready to brush the tops of your bagels so that you can add your seasoning and it gives it a nice texture. We had sesame seeds on hand, so that's all we used, but a nice everything bagel would go real nice. So let me know in the comments if you're going to use any other seasonings on top of your bagels and how they turn out. But I was really impressed with how these turned out, and I actually made them again, and I probably will continue to make bagels over buying them because they have like 3 ingredients, and they are, there's no preservatives, like I said, and it just feels good when you can actually make stuff at home rather than depending on, the grocery store. But I will say it is nice to get some nice farmers made bread every once in a while. And I probably will go back to that here and there when I don't want to make them. But honestly, it wasn't that hard to prepare these, and I hope to lean more on this kind of practice, homesteading kind of way of life when it is accessible and when it doesn't feel, draining, and because we want to also not feel like it's a pressure to prepare all of this stuff. But these are some of the things that I prepare in our week to use, like have for breakfast or have as a treat, or just to have at home when we're craving for something and it's here in our home, made by our hands.
I got jam on mine.
Homemade bagels, so simple. Try it.
We're now moving on to the sweet potato pudding. If you don't know what this is, it's a Jamaican treat, dessert. I don't even know if it's like an all day kind of snack, because I could certainly eat it all day. We are going to start off with getting all of our ingredients ready. So you will need coconut milk, you will need sweet potatoes, and you'll need the white flesh kind, preferably Jamaican. But if you can't get that, just find a white flesh one. And if it's super watery, I would recommend straining some of that liquid out. And I blended up some, but I also grated some, because I find that every time I make this, it doesn't turn out the greatest. And then, of course, Amir came back from the park and he saw that I was in the kitchen, so he had to get up there and help. And I love that he is so helpful. And then we had Daddy bust open the coconut, but it wasn't great. So we didn't opt to add it, but usually we like to shred up coconut and add it too. So the reason I shredded up the sweet potato in this as well is to just give it a different texture and baking consistency. And I had Amir stir that up, and then I added in some vanilla, and don't go light on this. I added quite a lot. And then this is like the tricky part, is adding the flour. You just don't know how much to ever add. For sugar, you can go by taste. but when it comes to flour, it's a bit more tricky. And like I said, I've made this many times and it didn't turn out. So this time I think I did about 1.5 cups of flour. And with the grated coconut, I felt like that gave it the right consistency and it was able to like hold together nicely, because we don't want it too mushy and we also don't want it too dense like a cake. So, and I did not add any baking powder to it. We did do an experiment though where we did add some baking powder to the rest of it in a separate tray, and it came out more cakey. So we actually are going to opt out from adding baking powder to any further sweet potato pudding. So I check on it quite often, as I'm not sure how long it usually takes. So I like to take out the pudding maybe halfway, and I like to add on some glaze. And to make this glaze, all you need is the coconut milk. So try to save some when you do make this. And then add in some brown sugar, stir it up, and then you can paint the top of it or just pour it on the top of the pudding.
Our seedlings need some better sun. Daddy took the rest of them. My husband took the rest to a greenhouse. So hopefully they're doing okay. We'll have to ask him to send us some video updates.
All right, so we are going to make some sea moss, and to get started with this, we need to soak it and clean it. So we're going to clean it first by just taking out a little. You do not need to soak a lot of this because it expands. So I like to give it a good rinse, and I like to use lime to use that to help with cleaning it, and then I soak it in some purified water.
Have a tea and to have a little slow morning sip and chill with Amir, read some books, and then we'll come back in the kitchen and start our meatballs.
Mama,
Is that Grammy on the phone?
I like to study in the morning, even if it's a page. So right now I'm currently studying soil, and Amir has a snack and just plays, and then usually we get into breakfast a little after we wake up. And today is a bagel with a fried egg from our nice freshly batched made bagels, and this is a favorite, so I definitely have this often for breakfast. And Amir has scrambled eggs.
Alright guys, so we're gonna start the meatballs. Amir went to sleep for a nap so early, so we have this moment now to get something done, and we're gonna cook some meatballs. But first I'm gonna strain off the sorrel that was steeping from last night. Okay, so now we're going to start making the meatballs. So we're going to dice these veggies up real fine because we want them to be well into the patty mix. So we will dice these up.
So I like to clean our meat before we cook it, and you don't have to do this, you can skip this step, but if you do want to clean your meat, I use either vinegar or lime, and doing it to ground beef is a little different. So I just did it slowly and try to get out as much water afterwards, and then you can either pat it dry with some paper towel, and then I added in the seasoning and our chopped veggies, and then I used this jerk seasoning. And if you don't like spice, either opt out or just use a little amount if you want it to have a little kick. And then I also added in 2 eggs to that mixture to help hold together the meatballs as well with some cornstarch. So I added about 2 tablespoons of cornstarch to the meatballs, and then I put it in the fridge for a bit and then rolled them into balls, and then I fried them in oil, and I would fry them for about 8 to 10 minutes. It was flipping as needed, and then I set them aside. All right, now we're gonna make some bammy, and you need some cassava to make this, and I shredded it up, and then I did add it to the blender. We are having a little snack break here. This is the sweet potato pudding, and it turned out so nice. All right, so then we're gonna blend up the shredded cassava, and I just used some water to help with that blending because we're gonna strain it off anyways. Okay, so then you're going to squeeze out all of the liquid. You want this to be really dry, almost like flour. All right, so you're gonna get a round dish. I don't have like one of those like crumpet circles with like, that's a full circle with a cutout. So I'm using like a lid, but if you do have one of those tools, I highly recommend it because it does stick and crumble. So I'm kind of just shaping it up with my hands here because you want it to be very compacted together. And then you're going to toast it on each side, and then take it out and soak it in some coconut milk. And after some time of it soaking in the coconut milk, you're going to fry it again. You want the oil to be hot and ready. You want the pan to be ready for this so it doesn't stick to the bottom. And then that is bammy, and we enjoyed this with the meatballs.
We just finished lunch. We had some of the meatballs mashed down with some cabbage and then steamed. It was delicious. And I was gonna show you what else we do to preserve food. So we got our cabbage from a local farmer, and I'm kind of picky with what I put in my compost, but I'm gonna show you kind of how we do it. So when I have food scraps, like something big like a cabbage leaf, I'm going to blend it and then pour it into the compost. It's easier for the worms to digest and get moving into making soil. Okay. Press it. And there you go, cabbage juice for the compost. In here. So what I do, we're gonna keep that shut for now. What I do is I take out some of the dry stuff on top because we want that brown layer on top. It helps with odor control, flies, all of that. And we'll take that all off. We're going to take that off, and then we put our hair in there as well. We have some of the carrots still there. Potato. Okay, so we're going to put some of those in. Do you want to help? We save all of our eggs, our eggshells. The worms love it. I think it's because of the calcium. Maybe the calcium or the nitrogen or phosphorus. I can't remember. And our cabbage can just go on top. And it's cabbage tea. And then so what I will do now with this, thank you babes, I'm going to take off the top because it has ink on it, and I'll just toss that away, but I will use more of this. So every time you add to your compost, you should put your greens, which would be your fresh materials. Your greens are your fresh material, like the cabbage, and then you'll put in your brown, so like paper, egg cartons, leaves, dried leaves, stuff like that. And by doing this, it really does help with any kind of scent, or just like to give it that barrier to prevent any kind of flies or any unwanted smells. is our compost, and we store it underneath our sink, and then it has its own cupboard, easy to access. Hey guys, so we are going to make avocado pudding. You might want to just do another rinse off of this just to make sure, because some sea moss can come very like of the sea still, carrying pebbles and whatnot. So I'm going to give it an extra rinse. These are the items you will need. I have cinnamon, some nutmeg, some vanilla, and blender, and a strainer, and then containers for your sea moss. I'm not gonna do that one yet. You want the sea moss to be very ground down, like smooth. So look at that consistency. Let's pour it in.
Okay, and now we are going to make our avocado pudding with our sea moss and a baked sweet potato.
All the things you will need for the avocado pudding is a white flesh sweet potato, avocado, and you can use your choice of milk. I'm using some cream and maple syrup, and then I'm going to put in some cinnamon and nutmeg. So we are gonna put some of the sea moss we made in this. Maybe like, I would say, eyeball it. And this is Sovereign Bloom, where you can find content on lifestyle, nutrition, and gardening. And you can follow me on my other accounts, TikTok and Instagram, where I post almost daily of what's going on over here. And yeah, thank you again for watching and tuning in here, and much love.